Hello everyone, how's it going? So FBI seizes major Nintendo Switch piracy website. A major website hosting pirated copies of Nintendo Switch 2 games have been shut down by the FBI. So if you go to the website, this is what you get. The FBI has seized the website. Now, instead of illegally copied games, the notorious NSW2U.com hosts a single image offering a warning message from the FBI acknowledging the domain has been seized. And this is what the FBI said about it. The FBI Atlantic Field Office announced today the seizure of several online criminal marketplaces providing pirated versions of popular video games. In addition to the seizure, the FBI dismantled the infrastructure of these websites. For more than 4 years, the website contained pirated copies of highly anticipated video games days or weeks before the official release date. Between February 28, 2025 and May 28, 2025, records indicate a total of 3.2 million downloads occurred on the site from most used download servers. These actions resulted in an estimated loss of $170 million. Now, this number is a little sus. The reason being that piracy is a service issue. Like, we can see this when Netflix first came around. A lot of people went to Netflix over like other services because it was safer, much more efficient, and simply superior. It's the same reason why people go to Steam. When you go to third-party pirated websites, you run the risk of downloading certain things that you probably shouldn't. Like, when you go, say what you will about PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, and Steam, GOG, whatever official digital store you use, for the most part, they're safe. Yes, there are rare examples like what happened with Steam in that situation where they did have someone selling malware through a video game. But for the most part, when you download a copy of, say, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 off Steam, it's not going to contain some sort of insidious package like a Trojan virus, ransomware, etc. So you do run a risk when you download from these sites. That's why other sites are much more safer than pirating these games. The other thing is $170 million in sales. People who pirate had no intention of buying these games. Usually they pirate the game and that's it. They don't have any intention of ever buying the game, so it's more of a service issue than it is anything else. They didn't lose sales because the person who downloaded, I don't know, Super Mario Odyssey had no intention of buying a Switch and playing the game. So this number is just taken from the fact that each game is valued at a certain MSRP, in this case Nintendo products, which are always the same price. They rarely ever go on sale, so $60, $70, $80, let's just put $60, that's when Super Mario Odyssey released at. That's where they're getting this number at, even though this number shouldn't even make any sense. It's just saying the product is worth that much, thereby Nintendo lost a sale when someone pirated it, even though that person had no intention of actually buying the game. You see what I'm talking about? It's just like, it's a service problem. Like, a lot of people do not like Nintendo, and with the recent Switch 2 situations, which we'll get into, I can't really blame them. As a part of the actions announced today, the FBI has obtained authorization to seize the domain of multiple sites, including NSW2U, NSWDI, all these websites. I'm not going to say them all. These domains host and facilitate access to the pirated video games. Anyone visited these sites will now receive a seizure banner that notifies the domain has been seized by federal authorities. Now, I do want to, like, I should have said this when I was saying that rant, but stealing is wrong. Look, if you want to play Super Mario Odyssey or Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, you're going to have to pay the company that made the game. You're going to have to buy their product and pay for it. That's how things work. If the product doesn't do well, it flops, the company goes under, so forth. So piracy, I do believe, is wrong, but it is a service problem more than anything. People are not happy with the way Nintendo handles their products for a lot of good reasons. Like, even though the Nintendo Switch 2 has sold over 3.5 million systems, the sales have been dwindling because there have been a lot of issues. For example, third-party sales have been dramatically reduced, and the reason is the game keycard system. For those who don't know, these game keycards, they're not physical versions of the game. You put the keycard into the game and they download the game from a third party from the server, so you don't own the game. This is to cut back on used game sales. So if you had a copy of Sonic X Shadow Generations, you could give it to your cousin, your friend, trade it, whatever. But with this game keycard, you can't do that. You can't sell it back to GameStop. You can't give it to a friend in exchange for a different game. You can't share it around. Their entire plan is to cut back on used games, so you will have to buy additional copies. It's the same thing that Microsoft tried to pull with the Xbox One when it originally launched with the Kinect 2.0 and all that stupid garbage. It's the same thing. Exactly the same thing. And it's just getting worse and worse as time goes on, because now people are like saying, when they see this, like a lot of people I saw on YouTube said, we just didn't want to buy this, because it turns out Nintendo charges extra for the card that's necessary in order to have the full game on the cartridge. Like with Cyberpunk, they paid the extra mile so the entire game is on the cartridge. So a lot of people were blaming like Sega or Capcom for this. In reality, they took the cheaper option, because why wouldn't they? Like, these games are old, and no matter how powerful the Switch 2 is, this is an inferior copy. These games play vastly superior. Well, the director's cut for Yakuza 0 isn't out on other platforms, but Street Fighter and Shadow X Generations plays vastly superior on other platforms. So why would you get an inferior option that costs more, doesn't include the full game? You see, it's just a bad investment. A lot of people didn't want this. They bought Mario Kart World for the most part, even though I believe that's a Game Geek card or whatever. And this problem was so prevalent that people were using like different ways to bypass the security for Switch 2, and they've been really anal about the security for Switch 2, to the point that when it got banned, people would just simply return it to the store, and just get either a new one, or they would just return it for store credit. People would buy the used one, and you bought a banned console. So not exactly the best situation when it comes to this. But let's read on. The domain has been seized. We already read this from here and here. Is there anything more? No. The later organization of FDIO is a Dutch government agency that investigates federal crimes, suggesting the website had ties to the Netherlands. Various European countries have previously blocked access to the website and added to the EU blacklist in May. IGN has contacted Nintendo and all this. Now, here's the other kicker when it comes to these piracy websites. Nintendo and other companies are incredibly, let's just say, jackasses when it comes to game preservation. It's a huge campaign that gained a lot of momentum in recent memory thanks to Raw, Security Farms, and Pirate Software, who is venomously against it. And the Stop Killing initiative, which I am highly behind this entire initiative. This is great, but the problem is that we still haven't gotten any way through this, because a lot of lobbyists are trying to fight against it, which means you're doing something right. If lobbyists are against you, you are doing absolutely something right. Keep pushing forward with this, and if we get this changed, chances are it will affect everyone across the world. No more Starfield copies that are not on the disc, or Halo Infinite, or Game Keycard garbages, because we've been seeing this with the most recent example being Anthem. Now, Anthem is shutting down next year in January, and that's it. You won't be able to access the game if you have a physical copy. That's it. Now, Mark Dara, who worked at BioWare, did a great video on this, saying that there are a lot of factors that come into this, like server binaries, the fact that this game requires servers to operate, what it means to keep a game alive. There are a lot of factors into that. He was like saying how if the game only has a tutorial level that's playable, does that count as the game still being accessible? A lot of factors go into this, but this is one of the prime reasons that people are very annoyed about this. That piracy websites, believe it or not, actually do preserve games, and there are vast amounts of communities out there who continue to support dead games, like Phantasy Star Online, what's another one? Netherwither Nights. There are also older games that don't mesh well with modern hardware, like, for example, Manhunt or Final Fantasy X on Steam, where people have created mods to fix those games because the publishers refuse to do anything, and why would they? These games are essentially played by, hundreds of people, so they wouldn't really want to fix it because it was just a waste of their time at this point. But yeah, piracy websites usually keep these games alive, and seeing that over 87% of classic video games have been lost. And remember, Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 are now considered classic consoles, just to put that into perspective. So imagine what Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, all those older consoles are like right now. So getting access to these classic games is becoming harder and harder. Like Pokemon Red version, that's a very, very old game. Getting access to that game is next to impossible nowadays, because, you either have, I don't think it's on their subscription service, but dear God, so many of these publishers have sub-services that you need to pay for to access the game. You can't even buy certain games on the PlayStation Network because you need to, stream it through their service, which is Absolutely ridiculous. And then there's also like licensed games like Transformers Fall for Cybertron, War for Cybertron, a bunch of Spider-Man games like Shattered Dimensions, Edge of Time that get delisted because they have licensed content within the game. Like we've seen this with GTA where they remove content from the game because certain tracks have been the license have expired, which really just sucks. Like games are molded and refined in order to adhere to certain legal practices, but if you bought a physical version of, say, Red Dead Redemption, they can't change that. You have the physical disc. They can't do anything about it. You could play the 1.0 version. There are other websites like My Abandoned which have access to certain products that have been completely abandoned. These are like just done. No one claims access to them. It's like when the IP rights for certain things expire. But in this case, like for the game Area 51, this is a classic first-person shooter game, and I have a physical copy of this for the Xbox. Can't play it on my 360, can't play it on my Xbox One. I need to bring out my original Xbox to play this game, or I can use My Abandoned, where there are also other games like Croc that are available on this because they've been totally abandoned. And there are community patches where you can play this game on your PC, but, you know, buyer beware and all that stuff. But regardless, yeah, there are websites like this that try to preserve video games and content as much as they can, like instruction manuals and stuff like, and so much other gaming history. And seeing that a lot of this stuff has gone missing, and the websites that try to preserve this stuff, even though they're nefarious, do their job to try and preserve them better than the very companies that are seeking to destroy it, like Ubisoft with The Crew, like with EA with Anthem, and just Nintendo's massive catalog of games that you simply don't get access to unless they allow it, or they shut down their eShop so you can't still access the game. So yeah, a lot of things are going on with this that I just don't trust. And yeah, what I think is actually going to happen, I actually want to think a little more about this before I went on another rant, is that it's just going to get worse unless the Stop Killing Games plan actually goes through with something. I think that we're going to lose more and more ownership because it's becoming more and more apparent that the original design for the Xbox One with Dan Matrick is going to be the future, because the Switch 2 mirrors that in so many ways. And we're going to end up with like cameras where they're going to be like, that was one of the major issues with the Kinect 2.0. They were like, if that thing can scan your entire room and you would order a pay-per-view event like WWE, UFC, whatever, and they say, well, there are 5 people in the room, and then a 6th person enters, and they say, well, you didn't pay for that. That seems like a crazy thing, but it seems that what we're moving towards as more and more people become comfortable with stuff like this, where you don't own the products that you own. Like, imagine if a DVD that you purchased for, I don't know, The Batman, I love that movie, I bought a DVD for that, if they say, oh, well, you put in the disc and you download a copy to your player, whatever it is, or that it only can be used for 10,000 times before the disc is dissolved or destroyed. Like Blockbuster tried something like that, if you remember Blockbuster, but that didn't go anywhere because, of course, there was a mass amount of backlash. But it seems that's what we're going through now. Like, people of our generation, like the newer generation, are becoming used to this type of stuff. Like, I've seen my friends' kids and my family's kids say stuff like that. They would be like, why would you buy something physical when you could just put it digitally on your system or stuff like that? And, you know, it's hard to explain to them, like, hey, you don't actually own what you just purchased, that they can take it away at any time, and they don't understand that until it finally happens to them. And then they realize, hey, we were right, that they can take away the stuff that we buy by any means. And it also works with technology. Like, for example, phones nowadays are designed to fail. Like Apple has a situation where they basically slow down the previous generation of phones just to make sure you upgrade to the next one. They say, oh, it's not compatible. Yeah, well, that I'm not buying that bullshit. Like, there are people who literally use Linux nowadays and they don't pay jack shit. They literally just download the latest whatever free update they have nowadays. So it's just new ways for them to charge you extra for stuff that you should have access to that you've already purchased. Like, you know, I'm just getting really annoyed about all of this. And I know it seems like I came from a huge stretch when it comes to piracy, but if buying your stuff is not owning it, then piracy isn't stealing. I know that's a common quote everyone uses, but it is true. Like, why is it that a company can, like, take away this stuff that we've purchased, like with game key cards, and just say, no, can't play it anymore? Because remember, with the game key cards, going back to that, they download onto your Switch. And if they decide by any reason to shut down your Switch because they believe that you did something illegal with it, you lose access to it. That physical game key card, per se, you don't get to play it anymore. You lose access to all your games, everything, just to put the fear of God onto you. So this piracy situation is just for them to control you even more and make you buy the latest edition of the game, even though you probably don't want to. Or, yeah. But that's it from me. I rambled on a lot. I have a huge stick on this because I believe in video game preservation. I believe in ownership. Basically everything that Louis Rossmann says, I believe in what he advocates for. And in this situation, I just don't trust Nintendo. Like, especially recent Nintendo. Like with Doug Bowser, I just don't trust them. Like with Reggie gone and Iwata gone, it feels like they've become EA at this point. Like Nintendo has always been very like conservative with their game development and their beliefs, but when it comes to now, it seems like they're just Doc Bowser used to work for EA, so that says volumes. But yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling there. I've cut this video 3 times because of situations, but that's it for me. Goodbye, have a good day, and I hope you enjoyed the video.